وصحبه أجمعين. يروي الإمام الترمذي بسند صحيح عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما قال: كنت خلف رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يوما فقال لي: يا غلام، إني أعلمك كلمات، احفظ الله يحفظك، واحفظ الله تجده تجاهك، وإذا سألت فاسأل الله، وإذا استعنت فاستعن بالله، واعلم أن الأمة لو اجتمعت على أن ينفعوك بشيء لم ينفعوك إلا بشيء قد كتبه الله لك، وإن اجتمعوا على أن يضروك بشيء لم يضروك إلا بشيء قد كتبه الله عليك. Today's hadith is narrated to us by Imam al-Tirmidhi with an authentic chain of narration on the authority of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, where he says that I was riding behind the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam one day, meaning on the back of an animal, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to me that I want to teach you some words. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ told him. He told him, be mindful of Allah and Allah will protect you. And be mindful of Allah and you will find Allah in front of you. And if you ask Allah. And if you seek help from Allah. And know that if the entire ummah came together to benefit you, they won't be able to benefit you unless if it's something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already written for you. And if they all came together to harm you, then they won't be able to harm you unless it's something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already written upon you. And in this hadith, we find some valuable pieces of advice from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he gave to Ibn Abbas. And Ibn Abbas at the time of the story was still a young child, around 10 years old. And there's a lot to say about this hadith, but we'll try to summarize the most important points for you very quickly, inshallah. Some scholars of hadith, they say in their commentary on this hadith, and I quote, they say, I reflected upon this hadith and it amazed me to the point where I almost lost my senses, and how sorry we feel for the people who are ignorant of this hadith or have a little understanding of this hadith. And they say this because this hadith has the very valuable pieces of advice that a person needs to succeed in the dunya and in the akhirah. And I've summarized these three main points into 3 points. Point number 1, احفظ الله يحفظك واحفظ الله تجده تجاهك. The first point, the first piece of advice that the Prophet ﷺ gave to us in this hadith is that be mindful of Allah and Allah will protect you. And be mindful of Allah and you will find Allah in front of you. And this means obeying the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and preserving the limits of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made prohibited. And whoever does this, and this is the concept of taqwa, or being mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all times. And whoever does this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect them and preserve them, and they will find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in front of them. And the meaning of you will find Allah in front of you is you will find that in every situation you go through in life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there with you. He is helping you and assisting you and protecting you and preserving you. And this is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, إِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ مُحْسِنُونَ. Indeed, Allah is with those that fear Him and those that do good. Point number 2, إِذَا سَأَلْتَ فَاسْأَلِ اللَّهِ وَإِذَا اسْتَعَنْتَ فَاسْتَعِنْ بِاللَّهِ. That if you ask Allah, and if you seek help from Allah. And this tells us that the first thing that whatever you go through in life, the first person that you should ask something from, or the first person that you should go to for help is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the concept of dua. وَقَالَ رَبُّكُمُ ادْعُونِي أَسْتَجِبْ لَكُمْ. Your Lord says, call upon me and I will answer you. And a person seeks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help at all times, in every situation, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one that can bring benefit, or the only one that can bring harm. And if the entire creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came together to benefit you, they won't be able to benefit you unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written that for you. And if all the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came together to harm you, then they won't be able to harm you unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written that upon you. And this piece right here is the final piece of advice that the Prophet ﷺ gave in this hadith, which is also point number 3. وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ الْأُمَّةَ لَوْ اجْتَمَعَتْ عَلَىٰ أَن يَنْفَعُوكَ بِشَيْءٍ لم ينفعوك إلا بشيء قد كتبه الله لك وإن اجتمعوا على أن يضروك بشيء لم يضروك إلا بشيء قد كتبه الله عليك. And the word ummah here doesn't refer just to the Muslim ummah, but it refers to the rest of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation. Meaning that if the entire creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came together and tried to benefit you, they won't be able to benefit you unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written that benefit for you. And if the entire creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came together to harm you, then they won't be able to harm you unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written that harm and that harm upon you. And this gives a person a sense of peace, knowing that everything is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wallahi ma asabaka lam yakun liyukhti'ak wa ma akhta'aka lam yakun liyusibak. That whatever has come to you or whatever you have was never going to miss you, and whatever has missed you was never going to come to you. And these are some valuable pieces of advice from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I hope that was a benefit. يروي الإمام الترمذي بسند صحيح عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما قال: كنت خلف رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يوما فقال لي: يا غلام إني أعلمك كلمات احفظ الله يحفظك واحفظ الله تجده تجاهك وإذا سألت فاسأل الله وإذا استعنت فاستعن بالله واعلم أن الأمة لو اجتمعت على أن ينفعوك بشيء لم ينفعوك إلا بشيء قد كتبه الله لك وإن اجتمعوا على أن يضروك بشيء لم يضروك بشيء إلا بشيء كتبه الله عليك. صدق رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب